Run Pure Sports members have been on fire recently as we've had a ton of six-figure screenshots flooding our premium Discord. And the winning wasn't limited to one sport, as our members have access to premium content across all sports for one low price. We kick things off with Hebrew Cheetah, who took home $19K in NBA. Also in NBA, C. Lion shipped $100K. In the PGA streets, C. Jacobs 986 won $100K, while Club Camp Cole and Birdie Monster each took home over $200K. The biggest winner of all was an NBA hit, with the man shipping a monster $1 million in DraftKings Millie Maker contest. Our members weren't the only ones crushing the leaderboard. Our very own JSU won over $100K in MLB, while Big T had another monster performance, shipping for $146K in PGA. With NBA playoffs, MLB, and PGA going strong, now is a great time to subscribe to Run Pure Sports. Head on over to our website and check out all of our affordable subscription options, and use code RPSHeaters25 for 25% off your first payment on a monthly subscription. And don't sleep on our free content offerings as well. PGA Millie winner Record 62 has been producing regular PGA articles on our website to help you build winning lineups. And subscribe to our YouTube channel today to sign up for alerts to our daily free live streams. Our best team has been on fire as well, with our guy Keg dominating the live NASCAR betting, pulling in over 22 units per race in 3 of the past 5 races. There's no better way to build your bankroll than betting with Keg and Coop on the live KegCast. Check it out today for just $40 a month. Thanks again, guys. Make sure you head on over to Run Pure Sports and find out why our members are crushing in every sport by accessing our free and premium content.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. I am your host, Mangone. I'm here with Hoop. We're here to talk some PGA, a little bit of a different show. So far, we've had, talk some MLB morning stuff because there's been tons of baseball going on. On Tuesday, we did an Eastern Conference preview of the playoffs. Friday, we'll do a Western Conference playoffs a Western Conference preview of the playoffs with Big T. And then today with Hoop, we're talking PGA and we're talking the RBC Heritage. And yes, it's already locked. You're probably sweating the golfers right now, but we're going to kind of go through like my exposures. We're going to go through, Hoop's exposures and kind of break it all down. Hoop, let's go on over to you. How is it going over there with you?
Yeah, going well. Locked this morning early, 7 Eastern on the East Coast. So kind of, grinded out those teams last night, but we'll dive into all of it, maybe hit on some NBA playoffs, but honored to be here as the mini version, your mini friend today. Now this has to stick. Like, you can't put a full-size picture of anyone ever that comes on the show. I mean, all the guests have to have the mini photos. So excited to be here. The show is off to a great start. I've tuned in every day. We had some MLB, some early MLB slates, and then you and JSU obviously had the NBA breakdown. Great start here, and looking forward to the success of the show moving forward.
Yep. And happy that everyone's coming and hanging out with us. If you have any questions, feel free to pile them in the chat. This is a great time to ask us stuff about our process. Of course, it's all fresh now, right? Like, someone DM'd me earlier today and they kind of wanted to get like a read on, hey, can we do like some process type stuff? And he said, I love hearing afterwards, like what people thought, but sometimes results, like, you can get a little results oriented. Like, even this morning, there's like a couple golfers that I was like, man, I kind of wanted to add to my pool and I didn't end up adding. And one of them was Cam Young, and I see him up at the top and I'm like, man, I wish I would have added him, but he could easily get T40 and it doesn't even matter. So, you don't want to tilt all that stuff, but it'll be interesting to really discuss that out and really break it all down. I do want to screen share this. We're going to obviously go into SaberSim. I don't know if Simon, I can get it set up here, but I want to look at SaberSim. Yeah, so Simon's going to send me the link. So while that's happening, Hoop, why don't you talk a little bit about your strategy for this event? Because I think it was a really interesting tournament. When you looked at the top, I felt like there was a lot of different really good golfers to take. It felt like Dustin Johnson was like the one guy I didn't care about. And the rest, I was like, okay, I'm in on, all these golfers are pretty good. So I felt like there were so many different ways you can go at the top. And then that 7K range was absolutely loaded this week. I mean, to the point where Adam Hadwin, I saw at 30%, who I like this week, I have exposure to. And Mito Pereira was 5%. And I was just like, that's crazy that there's that big of an ownership gap. And I think just in general, that 7K range was crazy. So talk about how, like, a little bit about your lineup building process, and then we'll kind of look at some of our exposures.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the week after the Masters, you assume that the field's not going to be as strong, and RBC Heritage pulled out some big dogs here, and the field was pretty loaded from top to bottom. And DraftKings did a good job with the pricing too, made it difficult. Like they really did a good job in that 9K range, I think, getting some of those guys priced up. Guys like Shane Lowry, Daniel Berger, Corey Connors, all right there close to 10K. And then they had their 5 guys above 10K. And, if you watch our shows, watch our content, follow our content, we're about making stands, can't play everybody. A lot of people around the industry they use the term sprinkle. They're going to get a sprinkle of this guy, sprinkle that guy. If you're listening to a pod or watching a show and they say sprinkle and you keep hearing this word, that means they're playing just about everybody. And that's like the worst thing you can do in PGA DFS. You got to make your stands. And for me up top, I haven't been playing a bunch of Cam Smith, and man, he's been hurting my feelings lately. So I did get on Cam Smith this week at low ownership. I mean, last week at the Masters, I think he was like 20-some% owned, and it looked like he was going to come in around like 10 or 11% owned. I think that was the case. So I got on him. I got on JT up top, who not off to the best start, but he's been doing this very frequently lately, where he gets off to a slow start and second round he kicks it into gear. So hoping that's the case. And then my highest owned guy, as you'll see when we break everything down, was Morikawa. I just really liked how he sets up for this course. Thought it was a fair price tag at 10-2. And then in the 9K range, it was difficult because those guys are in just such good spots. Like Matthew Fitzpatrick, I think, ended up being one of the highest owned guys on the slate. He loves this course. This is, he talks about how much he loves this course. He's in solid form right now. So I got on him as well. So really ate a lot of the high ownership chalk this week, or the popular guys. I just thought they were in really good spots, like Morikawa and Fitzpatrick. I think were like my two highest owned guys up top. I feel good about it. They both tee off in the afternoon. So we'll see. Didn't play many guys in the 8K range just because of how much I like these guys up top. And then, like you said, that 7K range was loaded. So played a lot of those guys. And then I felt good with some of the 6K guys too. So my player pool this week was a little bit bigger than it typically is. I think I played 40 some guys. But the reason behind that is because I like so many guys in the 6K range, and I was able to get overweight on a lot of guys in the 6K range by just playing like 6, 7, 8%, which you'll see when we go through my player pool. And strategy in PGA really differs week to week. There's weeks I lock guys in or play 60, 70% of guys. This week I didn't really end up doing that because of the way roster construction kind of turned out. But a fun event. It's a unique course. It's really cool to see on TV with like all the tree lined fairways and whatnot. So we'll see what happened. And then Cam Young off to a phenomenal start. I think he's 7 under. Played a lot of Cam Young a couple months ago, and hasn't been in the best form, so got off him unfortunately, but super low owned. I think he's like 2 or 3% owned in most contests. And we have a lot of golf yet to be played. So that's the one thing about PGA DFS. It's hard not to tilt early on. It's very hard not to tilt early on, but you got to realize even after round 1, you're only 25% into this tournament. A lot can change. So resist the tilt if you're new to PGA DFS. That's the number one piece of advice.
Yeah, definitely resist the tilt for sure. Like sometimes people can get like super tilted about a player. And I do really feel like it can like hurt your future results sometimes. Like you just create this bias for like hating a player or something for no reason when like they tilted you all weekend long and then they like backdoor snuck in and got like a T15, which is enough, right? So try not to do that. I think it's important. It's also fun to sweat it, but I think it's like finding a good balance of that is key. So right now we're looking at SaberSim. If you guys haven't signed up over at Run Pure Sports, this is the optimizer that we use over here. So be sure to sign up for Run Pure Sports and get the Opto package as well. That way, when you build out your lineups, I just think it gives you a huge advantage rather than hand building. I think you can hand build and still have success in DFS. I don't think it's something that is bad, but I think it helps plug a lot of holes in your game. Hoop, I know you talked about this on the One PGA show. Can you explain like the importance of like using the Opto? I know it's very intimidating, but the one thing I say to people before they sign up at Run Pure Sports and before they get the SaberSim package, I say, go like watch one of our tutorial videos. On top of watching our tutorial videos, go play around in the opto. Like another thing that I'm going to do, I think after we kind of get off this show, is I noticed some mistakes I may have made last night building with stuff. I'm going to go and rebuild after this just to kind of fine tune some of the mistakes that I think I made and just see if I like the pool a little bit better based on some discussions that we're having here, which are things that you can do that they don't seem valuable, but I think they can be very valuable. Even though the contest is already locked, it'll help you get better for the next time you build lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I was always a guy that was very skeptical of using optimizers, even as of like a year and a half ago. And, Big T was always calling me a donkey and a moron and, talking down to me because I have at times hand built 150 teams for PGA, and actually it worked out. I had a nice team, a nice sweat in the millie maker. This was a few years ago, but Big T would just always make fun of me. He's like, dude, just start using the optimizer. I'll help you. So he kind of helped me get used to using the optimizer. And it's just, man, so many benefits, especially the SaberSim optimizer, so many benefits of using this, the tools they have in there, the NBA where you can, download your teams and then make all the swaps if there's late news. I mean, it's just a phenomenal product. You can go back, like you said, and check out your teams and look at things you could have done differently. So many benefits to using an optimizer. So if you're not comfortable with it, ask questions. I mean, if you're a member at Run Pure, you can get in our Discord. The SaberSim administrators are right in there. I mean, their top tech guys are in our Discord and answering questions usually very quickly. So don't be afraid to ask questions, ask people for help. We have a lot of people, not only coordinators, but members in the chat that are willing to help with the lineup optimizer. But it's a very important tool. And, I'll sometimes use optimizers all the way down to like 3 teams if I'm making 3 teams, just because I want to make sure I have certain exposures to each guys. You don't have to use it for 3 teams. You can certainly hand build. I mean, you can hand build 10 teams, but running an optimizer, it's like a kind of gives you that extra layer of security, that extra check as well. So very important aspect of MME for DFS.
Yep, agreed. And someone in the chat, they said, what kind of animal doesn't save the name of their builds? I'm a madman. Hoop, do you save the name of your builds?
No, I need to get better at doing that because like I'll build these teams and then I'll forget which is for what and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, labeling the builds makes sense. I've done it once or twice, but I never do it because usually I'm in a scramble trying to change things and operating pretty quickly. So the labeling kind of goes by the wayside there a little bit for me.
I do it for NBA if like my shop is set up correctly and I'm there earlier, but there's the one reason we probably don't hoop is we're updating content, doing 1,000 things normally during lock. So it's probably just why it's one thing that we don't really think about as much, but I actually remember all the names of them. So like if I had to tell you 1054, that was just the first run, right? Then this one, the 1101, that was when I made my mins. I did all my min exposures. I threw those in there. Once I threw the mins in, I noticed I wanted to put some maxes as well. So then this was like my final one that I thought looked pretty good and clean. And then these last 2 were for my single entry. This 1114 one was just like a normal single entry run. And I knew I wanted Mito. I knew Mito was like a key low owned piece that I thought would be really good for single entry. So then the 1119 was Mito locked. So I have them all memorized at least. But I kind of want to show you some of these exposures. And one thing I noticed actually that I think was a mistake that I messed up with. And I mean, Hoop, you know me, I'm not normally up as early with this morning show. It's I've been up a little earlier this week. So I was kind of tired last night for myself. I know it's not that early, but I'm on the mountain time and I normally like to get my sleep. So I kind of ran through stuff pretty quick. I liked my exposures, but I didn't set and I don't think it's necessary, but I noticed a lot of teams like this one left literally $3,000, which is probably way too much, probably ridiculous. So not super excited about that. It is kind of a weird week where we've seen a lot of guys that we don't see a lot of favorites win, as it's kind of been talked about. I don't know if you just said it now before, but we have Masters week, and then sometimes a lot of these good golfers mail it in. So we don't typically have as many good golfers here. So we see more long shots, but let's talk about some of these exposures here. Matt Fitzpatrick, my highest owned guy at 56%. Corey Connors, 42%. Webb, 38. Morikawa, 36. Berger, 36. I felt like I got overweight. And that's one reason I probably didn't adjust anything else. When you see these exposures, I just felt like I was overweight on a lot of good guys up top and felt like it mixed in a lot of my cheap guys pretty well. Then you see Mito. He was one of my biggest stands I wanted to take in the 7K range at 32%. So I went way overweight on him. Adam Hadwin, I got him at 30%. And then, of course, we got some other guys mixed in. I loved Matt McNeely. I loved Harmon. Knox, I thought, was a good guy as well. Hogue. There's a ton of really just good options in here. And then my cheapest stands in the 6K range, or the ones that have the biggest stands on, was Lahiri, which is not a guy I was like super excited about, but he just kind of popped a ton. And I just was like, I'm just going to leave it and not mess with it too much. Because sometimes I like to not like constrain the opto too much. I think sometimes we like to put too much mix into it. And sometimes you got to just let like the opto take over and let the numbers do it. So I just said, let me let that take over. And then I had Damon there at 20%. So those are some of my exposures there. What's some of your thoughts looking at this? Because again, you're way better at PGA than me. And I want to kind of get some of your thoughts, and I believe you can maybe help some people talking about this.
Well, I mean, the first thing I look at when, looking at people's teams, are you getting overweight versus the field on your key guys? And you certainly are. I mean, you just have to make sure, okay, so, Matthew Fitzpatrick is your highest owned guy. To me, if you want to play Matthew Fitzpatrick, if you're playing him at like 22, 23, 24, 25%, you're doing it wrong. He's going to be highly owned. And we talk about this on the shows all the time. It's reflected in our content. If you're playing a guy that's that highly owned, you need to make sure that you're getting over the field. You did that. And that's honestly the key thing to me. I like Mito this week as well. I at first glance thought he would be a pretty popular guy on the slate. And, later in the week, I realized he's not going to be all that popular. He has the upside, and obviously he's playing well to start here. I don't have as much as you do, but I'm certainly over the field. I think I might have like 12%-ish on him, which I'm cool with. That's like double.
Yeah, that's fine, because we projected him at like what, 5 to 7. So like you got double, right? I just wanted to take a pretty big stand on him in general. Like you see in some spots, like I did kind of what you did. Like if you look down lower, and one thing I think on SaberSim that you can use is the leverage tool, right? So if you put in whatever projected ownership you want, or use the SaberSim one, all you have to do is this number shows that you are overweight on each guy. Now like here on leverage, I'm like 20% over on Lahiri. And like, again, that's not something like I really wanted to do, but I do kind of like taking some type of aggressive stance on these 6K guys, because like when it hits pretty strong. Now again, I don't love the way I constructed my pool. I wish, like, I only did 25 golfers. I didn't do 150 lineups. I only did 50 lineups. If I was doing 150, I'd probably have a lot more golfers. And I think my pool was decent, but I know some mistakes that I made definitely by looking at this and talking so far. So here's some of the cheaper guys, like Adam Svensson. I saw him at 4%. I only need 8. Jim Furyk, another guy. Like, for instance, one thing I'll do sometimes is like, if let's say I like Jim Furyk and he's like a 1% guy, kind of like a Lahiri. Like my first run, and I believe I could pull it up, one of the runs, I think it's this one. Lahiri popped up at like a ridiculous amount. I think it was like 40%. And then I said, okay, I don't need 40% of this guy, right? Let me cap it at like 20. Yeah, here it is. So I think 26%, maybe it was the other one. I don't know. Let's look at this one just to make sure, because I remember seeing him at a pretty high percentage. Yep, here it is, 40%, right? And yeah. I just saw that hoop and I said, I don't need that much. So then I capped all my 6K guys at 20%. Looking back, I wish I would have maybe capped it at like maybe a 10%, but I did kind of want to do a lot of like double stud builds. And again, it probably should have spent a little bit more time. I felt good about the pool that I created, but what's your kind of thoughts on like min-maxing? Because that's one thing that I definitely mess with for sure. But one mistake I noticed sometimes when you do the min-maxing stuff is you can constrain the opto a little too much, where then it has trouble building lineups. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, so I agree with that strategy. Like, you don't want really to play 6K guys at 40%. And it all the stuff varies week to week, but this is a week where the 6K range, there was so many guys because we have a top heavy event, some of the big names, and then there's a lot. I think there is more than half the field was like in the 6K range on DraftKings. And to me, there's like a lot of guys down there that I had interest in. With so many guys down there, the ownership is going to be so low, like low single digits. So that's why I ended up with more guys in my player pool this week, because I wanted to play a good chunk of those guys, because we've seen long shots win at this event. So I wanted some exposure. I was able to get it, over the field on so many of those 6K guys, which you'll see when we look at my teams coming up next. You don't want to play those guys at 30%. Yeah. I mean, if you have a strong read on someone and you love them, yeah, play them a little bit more, and it will pay off if they do end up winning an event. But for me this week, kind of spread out the ownership in the 6K range, still was able to get overweight on a lot of guys down there. And that's just how I went about building rosters this week, because I did like so many guys in the 10K range, and I did like, a good chunk of those guys in the upper 9K range as well. So it forced me to come down here. But yeah, the key thing, you definitely want to use those min max tools on SaberSim or whatever optimizer you are using. You want to use the min max, especially the max, because if you have a guy that's projected, pretty high in the low range, they're going to show up in a ton of your lineups. And you don't necessarily want to be like 40% Lahiri. Now, if Lahiri goes out and chips this week, you're going to wish you went 40% Lahiri, but the odds of that, not very likely, obviously.
Yeah, you can definitely go pretty broke doing that too, right? Like, keep in mind, like, that's one thing to discuss. You want to have a nice concentrated pool, but you also don't want to spread it out too thin. And again, I'm happy that we went through this, and I already know some mistakes that I made, like I said, and I'm definitely going back after this to kind of tinker with it to make sure I can plug those holes. Because again, I'm more of like a 1 to 3 lineup guy. I definitely truly like that more, and I'm trying to get better at MME. And if you are trying to get better at MME, you don't have to play like 150. Of course, yes, I do agree. Like, if you want to like play those bigger contests, it's better to be able to have the max in it, but maybe you just do like the 20 max, right? And in the 20 max, I think you can build it very similar to a 150 max, especially if your goal is to get better at 150 max. So I think that's a really important thing to discuss. Before we go to your exposure soup, I just want to show how I kind of built some of my single entry stuff, just because I think that's kind of interesting. So we'll go to this build and look at that. This is when I locked Mito. So this is like a simple way of using an optimizer and just being like, hey, I want to see how my team looks. So what I did on Saber, and I'll just pull it up and show, I clicked the, build the teams. I did GVP, single entry. I did the entrance like 1,000 to 10,000. So I was trying to do like the $200 single entry, trying to win that. And then I tried a min uniques of 3, and then I also did 2. So I kind of messed with both. I went with 2, thought it was perfectly fine, because I already knew Mito was like one of the uniques, because I knew he's just very low owned. So built 20 lineups, pool size 5,000 or 500. So went through and looked at it. And I thought that a lot of these teams, I noticed some of the best teams that were popping were double stud builds, right? Connors, Fitzpatrick, based on what I wanted to do. And I really like that 7K range. I noticed Fitzpatrick, Connors, and a lot of them were just mixed around. Fitzpatrick, Connors again. If you scroll down, there's a Morikawa Fitzpatrick. Then you got a Berger Fitzpatrick. I thought a lot of those builds were really interesting, and that's kind of what I looked at. And one thing I think you can do sometimes, Soup, and I hoping maybe to find the team that I kind of did it on. But what I basically did when I was building around, I do this in NBA, and I believe this is the one. Let's see. Yeah, this is kind of similar to it, I think. What I basically did was I looked at lineups, Hoop, and as I built them, or as I was looking at them, I said, I know some of the guys that I like, and I looked for a team that I thought was really good. And then I maybe made like one switch. Like maybe the switch was like, I liked Harmon, I liked Mito, Connors, I liked Berger. So then Damon was there, and this team leaves $600. So that gets me up to 7,400 if I want to. So then I just swapped in like one other guy that I liked, where I'm still building a team that's really close to the optimizer, but I'm just making one slight change. That could be like one reason I had a pretty good night in NBA the other night. Instead of going Marcus Morris, I just went Norm Powell at the same price off a team that looked very similar to a team that I built through using an optimizer. Do you kind of do that with some of your single entry stuff? Because you play high stakes stuff. I mean, Big T talks about it all the time. He's like, you're one of the best tournament players from like a 1 to 3 lineup. And I think you're one of the best at it too. So talk to me about how you kind of do that process as well in PGA.
Yeah, so I mean, we get a lot of questions at Rumpier from members like, hey, I'm in a single entry, like how should I build my teams, blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of it depends on what sort of single entry are you in. Are you in a single entry with 20,000 people in it? Or are you in a single entry with like 100 people, which are kind of like the contest that I'm in, like that 3K on DraftKings and things like that. If you're in the single entry that has 20,000 people, you need to you don't want to play like a cash game type team. If you're in one that has 100 people, you can play a cash type team and then find a couple pivots. So for me personally, in the higher stakes single entry stuff, what I'm trying to do is go with the guys I like, go with the guys I feel good about, regardless of ownership, but then find a couple guys that might be lower owned. Now, if you're in the $20,000 or 20,000 person single entry, I'm just using that as an example. You might want to find more pivots. You might, if you're going to play some popular guys, maybe only play 2 popular guys and then find, 4 guys that are not like unowned, but like less owned than that tier. There's always an upper tier in PGA DFS that has the ownership, and it's come down in terms of number. You're looking at like 25 to like 18%. There's always like 10 guys for the most part that are in that range in terms of ownership. Find 4 guys that might be, 8, 9, 10% owned, or, a couple like darts that are very low owned. So it really depends on the contest that you're entering. For the higher stakes stuff, you don't need to find as many pivots in the bigger field events. Yeah, you need to find more guys that are not going to be in that popular range. So that's like the one piece of advice that I'd give here, and I give to our members as well when they ask that question.
I think that's great info there. Do you want to say, guys, if you could, please hit that like, subscribe to the channel, helps us out a ton. Also want to just say we have a new podcast that we're doing like once a week. JT is talking about like, things that are happening in the MLB, right? You can kind of like every Monday or Tuesday or so comes out with like a new podcast where it just talks about like trends that are happening. Like for instance, the sticky stuff last year. If you listen to, our guys, we talked a lot about it, how that can change stuff. So it's not as much a DFS pod. Of course, they're going to talk some DFS. It's not like they're just talking specific slates, but they're talking, hey, things that happened this week, things to watch for, which is great. It's a great tool that you can use to help you out along with all the other tools we have over here at Run Pure Sports. Also want to talk about some of the premium stuff that we have here. And because I'm screen sharing, let me just pull it up, and here's something people love to see. They love to see the Big T player pool, right? So I'm going to pull up the Big T player pool and just kind of talk about it a little bit. He's got a nice little setup here. And these are all the golfers he decided to play that we can obviously check out. He had a 30-man pool. Curious to see what Hoop's pool is going to be. And then here's his scrubs. And this is something I consider, especially when you're in SaberSim, making a group where you just say, hey, I'm playing only one 6K guy in my entire pool. So Todd, Damon, Gim, Furyk, Brian, and Wierenski. I actually thought about doing that, and looking back, I kind of wish I would have done that. So that's kind of the, something that you can get over here at Run Pure Sports, and we have all the content that you need. I mean, core plays, everything that you could get. It's absolutely awesome. So be sure to check that out. But we're going to go over to this dashboard page and look at Hoop's lineups that he has here, because Hoop has a nice set of 150 lineups that we got to look through, and he's going to discuss it now. So Hoop, Morikawa, your most exposed guy, with the field being at 25%. Then Hadwin's next at 35. Fitzpatrick, 35, and you're overweight at the 21%. And even JT. JT is a guy that you definitely jammed in there, and you got nice and overweight on for sure. And there's some guys you're maybe more leveraged the other way, negatively, I believe, right? Because you got 28% in the field is 19. So you're still good. Never mind. I thought the red was that, but this is where some spots you're a little bit under. But I think overall you did a pretty good job of making sure you're either overweight or, at least even with the field on most your golfers, which I think is something that you just talked about. That's very important. What's your thoughts on this player pool here?
Yeah, so I mean that's my main mindset with building teams. I want to be over the field, and I think I'm like right at or over the field on everyone in my player pool besides looks like
the biggest
Joel
mistake.
Damon.
Yeah, the biggest mistake I think was David. Not that it's a mistake, but like I know if you would go back and change it, you would rather be like at maybe 10% Damon now. Would you agree? At least getting over on that?
Yeah, if I was going to play him, I mean, I guess sometimes it comes down to how many cheap guys do I need to get the right exposures up top? So for me, I'm not really as worried with the cheapies as I am with the guys up top. And like I said, 43 is more than I typically play. And I kind of explained the reasoning behind that a little bit ago. And, just because there's so many guys in that 6K range and so many guys that I like, had to bring some into the player pool. So, starting up top, this is, I don't necessarily fade chalky guys. If I like someone, I'm going to play them and get over the field. And, Morikawa, Hadwin, Fitzpatrick were, 3 of the higher owned guys in this field. And I knew if I wanted to play them, I had to get overweight. So I played all them over 35%. And this changes for me week to week. There's been times where I lock guys in. There's times when I play someone 70%. This week, I just felt really good about spreading it out a little bit more with my highest owned guys. And it's a week to week thing. A lot of times people will ask questions. Well, someone asked in the chat, it's honestly, there's definitive answer. It's a week to week thing for me, depending on the field. Like I said, there's been times I've locked guys in. There's times when my highest is 75. There's times when, my highest is 50. It just really depends week to week. So going down a little bit more, Justin Thomas, obviously, looks like this could be a regret this week. Another slow start for him, but he's done this last couple of events, slow start, and then just crushes it round 2. So hopefully he either picks it up this round, this opening round, or the round 2 ends up being good like we've seen in the past. I feel like I'm like Snyder this week. All his boys up here, Morikawa, and then you got Mav McNeely, who I really liked.
Even Chris Kirkhope. I mean, I know Snyder's a big Chris Kirk guy too, as well. So you definitely have.
Kirk's another guy off to a slow start. But yeah, Mav, Kirk. One of my favorite guys was Noren. Ended up getting right around 30% on him. He was 13, so a lot of leverage on a guy like Noren. A lot of leverage on Kirk. Cam Smith was the other big one. Looked like 11-12%. I wanted to be double, so I got 23. It's really solid leverage on Cam Smith this week. Shane Lowry was another key guy for me. A little above the field on a guy like Lowry. So I mean, probably a more like conservative. I did get 12. Oh, so I did get the 12% on Mito, which I feel good about. He came in at 5. I thought that was bad. Like 5.5% on Mito. That's egregious. I know we both like him. Obviously, off to a good start here, so it's pretty easy to say. Charles Howell was a guy I liked. He's off to a slow start, but over the field on him as well. Wesley Bryan was a guy that got a lot of talk this week. A lot of people were talking about Wesley Bryan. Still only came in at like 3%. A really good course history here. Played him at 10. Played Svensson at 10. Adam Long was a guy that's been playing pretty well, so I liked him. I went up to 10 on him. He was only 1%. So I mean, you see the leverage here, leverage on a lot of guys. I mean, only a couple guys that, at the field in this upper tier, I guess, or for my higher owned guys, there's only a couple guys that I'm right on the field or under the field. The cheap guys, like I said, I'm not as worried getting over the field. I just want to make sure my ownership on my key guys is where it's at. And then I can, fill in with some of these cheap guys. Played more cheap guys than I typically do. A lot of these guys, I guess it looks like I'm right at the field. And these dudes that are like 1% and 2%, like I just played them in a couple lineups to get the right percentage, to make sure I could get 40% Morikawa, 35 Hadwin. So I'm not too worried about, doing that with some of these guys where I only played them like I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 7 guys that I played 4% or lower. Not super worried about doing that. Like these are just throw-in guys to make sure the ownership on my key guys work, if that makes sense. It might not be the best way to explain it, but these are just like tossing guys to make sure, Morikawa is at 40 and then Hadwin 35 and Fitzpatrick's 35. When building out my teams, it might not have been working where I couldn't get those sort of ownerships without bringing in some of these other 6K guys. So that kind of explains my mindset on these dudes at the bottom, but typically I like to play everyone like at least 5%. Like I just want to be at least 5%. So if they do shoot up the leaderboard, make a run, I have enough where it's going to impact my results. So that's kind of my mindset. I mean, there was a couple other questions in the chat that groups. Someone asked about groups. In PGA, I really don't do groups. I mean, the only time I do groups in PGA is if there appears to be like a weather advantage where there's going to be, calm, where there's a distinct weather advantage where one set of tee times is better than the other. Then I'll bring the groups in. But a week like this week where I didn't think there was any weather advantage, I don't even mess with groups. Just roll it out and make sure I have the right percentage on my key guys.
Yeah, another group I think you can do, and like I don't think you purposely obviously you said you don't always do groups, but it felt like when you did your building, like you wanted to have a lot of like the guys up top, right? You wanted to have a lot of cheap 6A guys. So like one group you can do, like let's say you're doing 20 max and you're kind of on board with 2. I like kind of playing a lot of these expensive guys, not as much as the 9K. What you can do is you can just say, I want at least 2 of Morikawa, Justin Thomas, and like who's the other, like Cam Smith. And like you throw Shane Lowry in there because he was kind of in that like bucket of guys that like wasn't in that like main 9K range of like Berger, Fitzpatrick, Connors. So like you can build a group like that where it jams in at least 2 of them. And then naturally it's going to give you those kind of builds if you think they're contrarian. Another thing you do is, let's say that a lot of people are just playing 2 guys at the top. Maybe you slam in 3 guys in the mid tier instead. Maybe it's like you make that whole 9K range. Like one thing I noticed is a lot of teams, when you saw when I ran with my Mito lock, a lot of teams had 2 9K guys on every team. Maybe to be different, I just slam in 3 9K guys. I make a group and say, give me at least 3 of these like 6 9K guys, and then see what teams pop up. You might be surprised that there might be some kind of team that you wouldn't have hand built that you're like, wow, that's a team that I really like. And it's something with all the exposures and everything I listened to this week and studied based on looking at whatever you look at. Maybe you'll find a team that you really like through that, and you're still building a really good team. What's kind of some of your thoughts on that, Hoop? You're shaking your head, so it seems like you're interested in that.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to add to that conversation. I know a lot of people, if they're playing multiple guys in the 6K range, and Big T does this all the time, he always talks about it, where he's going to set a rule where he doesn't have more than 1 cheap guy in each lineup. And that's fine. And it's everyone's opinion, and maybe it varies contest to week, field to field. But for me, I don't really set that rule. If I'm going to play someone in the 6K range, I'm comfortable playing, a couple of them in the same lineup, because then you're going to be unique. Because a lot of people, you're talking about low owned guys in the 6K range. What it does for your lineups, it gets multiple studs in there. A lot of people don't like those builds. So those builds are instantly unique when you play multiple cheap guys. So for me, I'm good to just let it run. But I know Big T talks about it a lot, where he'll set rules where he's only playing 1 guy, under 6.8K or whatever it may be. And like you said, if you really like a range, like if you love the 8K range this week, you can put all those guys in there and say, give me 3 8K guys. You're going to automatically get balanced builds. If you take 3 8K guys and plug them in, you're going to probably have 3 8K guys, 3 7K guys, and that's how your lineups are going to be constructed. If you don't like the top end range, you can do stuff like that. So a lot of different things you can do. It just all comes down to preference. For me personally, I'm more worried about getting to certain ownership on guys, not necessarily how the lineups look. Other people are more precise. So a lot of different ways you can go about it. Some weeks it might be right, some weeks it might be wrong. But yeah, the player group function is valuable. I think it's just more valuable in other sports.
Yeah, and there's definitely different ways you can use it. And it just depends on your approach and what you're kind of into as you kind of build out your lineups. Sometimes I like to use the groups for golf. Sometimes I don't. Looking back, I wish I would have used it because I think it would have been better. But I'm going to go, once we get off the show, I'm going to go through and kind of rebuild some stuff out and see if I can build a pool that I liked a little more and just better lineups. Because I do think I made some mistakes for sure. Your pool looks really good, though. We'll have to see how it all shakes out because, again, we have a lot of time. Hoop, this is a good time, too, to plug if you're watching the golf stuff. And let's say you're enjoying the RBC Heritage, or let's say it's gone the other way so far, it's not going well. We got Showdown content over here at Run Beer Sports. So why don't you talk about some of the Showdown shows that we're doing here and the content?
In terms of the content, our boy Snyder does a phenomenal job. Rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4 does I guess it would be a alternate playbook basically, where he lists 5 or 6 guys in each range, and then there's four of us that put our cores at the top of the playbook, one spot to go to get all the information. Snyder does a phenomenal job, has a little breakdown at the bottom, talks about any weather edge that may be available for the given slate. And then each round 2, 3, and 4, we have Showdown shows. Tonight it will be me, Snyder, and Tambo, and that's on the Mayo Media Network. So head on over there and check out those shows. We'll tweet it out and everything too, so you can tune in. So we break down, we're going into round 2 and anything that happened in round 1 that might be important for round 2. And then the round 4 show, which is Saturday night, is part of the premium product over here at Run Pure Sports. So you need to be a member to watch that one, but that's the one with the most strategy because of the scoring. It's a little bit different, the round 4 one, where you get the finishing points as well. And a lot of times you'll see ownership at the top, or the guys at the top of the leaderboard just get all the ownership. So playing guys that are from behind that can, make birdies and move up, super valuable. The field doesn't do it at all. And I know our team has done really, really well with the round 4. And like I said, that's part of the premium product at Run Pure.
Yeah, be sure to check that out. Also, I don't know if Simon's still sharing, but if he is, I got the screen share of the Showdown playbook up where, on round 1, maybe the golf notes there didn't get them in as much, but he gets them in for sure with the other rounds. But
round 1, it's more just getting cores up there. I mean, the prize pools for round 1, not all that big. More people are obviously focused on the main, but round 2, 3 and 4, it'll be a full breakdown with notes and everything. At the top, we have the cores and everything listed. So yeah, round 1 is kind of fluky for Showdown, and I don't even think we were doing it last year, but this year we included round 1, but round 2, 3, and 4 are more in-depth breakdown.
Yeah, and notes like that'll be plugged in that I think are key is like Snyder might say like, hey, Kevin Na was like great on strokes gained, approach, but like the putting wasn't there, and like maybe he'll say like, Na's played here for like 8 rounds and he's like never lost strokes putting, so like clearly it should bounce back here, something like that. It's definitely a great tool to use. During the Masters, we had a ton of people shit from watching those shows. So be sure to check it out. It's awesome content over here on the premium side at Run Pure Sports. But Simon, if you're screen share, you don't have to screen share anymore because I think that's enough golf stuff. We're going to finalize the last like 20 minutes. Let's talk a little NBA playoffs with Hoop because we love talking some NBA. So does Hoop. I mean, he's got it in the name. So Hoop, what's some of your thoughts here on this NBA playoff preview? Because we already watched the playing games and already seen some impressive stuff. I was very impressed with the Timberwolves, like what I saw out of them. I can't wait to see what happens with these playing games for Friday night. We got winner go home games, Clippers, Pelicans. We got Atlanta and Cleveland. So let's kick it off first with the Pelicans and Clippers. What's your thoughts on that matchup, Cian? Because I think Clippers, that's my lean, but I was pretty impressed with the Pelicans last night.
Yeah, I was impressed with the Pelicans. I do lean the Clippers too. I mean, I got on the Clippers to kind of make a run here, put some money on them to win the Western Conference and the championship. I mean, the odds were super deep. Any word on Kawhi? Have they said anything at all or no?
I don't believe he's going to come back, but this is the guy that he took forever to come back. Right. And I don't see him rushing back unless he like really thinks that they have a true run. Like maybe if like they just start making a run in like the first round and then he like feels like it. And then maybe he tries to get there, but I don't know. I have no idea what his actual injury situation is right now. So, but if he does come back, like you are loving the ticket you're sitting on. So I understand the gamble and bet you're
I just like the favorites here. I mean, I like the Hawks to beat the Cavs. I think Cavs are a fraudulent team. I mean, talked about it all on basically all the shows. I mean, I think they're one of those regular season teams that, comes down to these playoff games, playing games that are just going to underperform. So definitely like the Hawks in that game. Trae Young, I think, is just going to be too much in that spot. He looked great. The Hawks looked great last night. So definitely on the Hawks. And I think I'm going to lean the Clippers too. I mean, I like what I've seen out of Paul George. I think they can make a little bit of a run and, Kawhi potentially returning, lingering in the background. So for me, it's going to be both favorites. I feel better about the Hawks situation. I think the Hawks are definitely going to win that game. And cover. But the Pelicans, Clippers, I think, not as confident, but definitely lean the Clippers.
Yeah, the Hawks, I'm with you. I like the Hawks a lot in that game. They'll be the side that I am on there. I'm curious to see, like, when John Collins comes back, if the Hawks play the Heat, I'm curious to see if they can take him down. I think I know it's not like the Heat are for sure the favorites, but I think you get a good line on the Hawks to be able to upset. They're a team that I think when you have Collins that lineup, they can just throw a lot of different ways at you. So I'm excited for that. I'd rather see them than Cleveland. I don't even know if Jared Allen's for sure going to be back, but I hope he's back for this game. That way we can get like a really fun matchup. I think that'd make it better for sure. And if Jared Allen's back, that's a big difference maker for that team. So I think that's really important. Let's talk about some of the other ones. Who are some teams that you're like looking at that can make a run? Let's talk about the West real quick. Cause I think Dallas is like dead. Like, I don't even think even with Luka being healthy, they really have a shot. That's my personal opinion. Utah, same thing. Denver, Jamal Murray's just not right. Like, that's the other thing all year long, all I've heard, and we see this every year. Oh, when this guy's right, they're going to be great. When he's right, and then he just never is, never comes back. So not really counting on Denver. I really only see like 3 teams that have a shot in the West personally, maybe 4 if you count the Clippers. And I think they need Kawhi back in order for that to truly happen. But my 3 are Phoenix, Warriors, and Memphis. I know it sounds chalky, but I truly think Memphis is the one that can really make an interesting run. I'm definitely a big believer in them. I know some others aren't. Curious to get your take on who the Western Conference teams that you think can get out of the West.
Yeah, we're going to be different right out of the gate because I like Minnesota in this series. I talked about it with spread yesterday. I think they have a chance to upset the Grizzlies here. I just, I like what I've seen. You got the Pat Beverly thing. I'm not saying he's going to stop Ja Morant, but he can annoy him enough in the series. I kind of like Minnesota for the upset in that one. I mean, the overall picture of the West, though, it's weak. I'm not a believer in the Warriors. The Jazz are a disaster. I just think it's just clearly Phoenix. I mean, to come out of the West, I mean, they're just, to me, so much better than everyone else. I really wanted to bet against the Warriors in the first round, but they got the matchup with the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets when Jokic is not out there, just an absolute disaster. I mean, just no help. I mean, he gets no help. Can he do it for 7 games? He's been phenomenal, but that's just too much pressure for him. So definitely going to lean the Warriors in that series. Dallas, yeah, I mean, they're done. Even if Luka returns later on in the series, I just don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Jazz. Problem is, these numbers are just not that great in terms of betting. Like, I'm not betting Utah minus 300. Like, I can't do that. And then the Warriors,
you could have got it at minus 150. But then I think even before it was like a little better. But a lot of these injuries, have the Curry injuries messing up the series, Luka's injury. A lot of the injuries are kind of messing with some of these series bets for sure.
Correct. So, I mean, I think Phoenix is the clear team to come out of the West. They're just so much better than anyone in this Western Conference. I mean, it's just crazy how it's now totally flipped. I mean, the Western Conference was so superior for so many years. Now it's the East. The East is the more entertaining one. The East has the better players. The East has the better teams. Just more entertaining for sure. So not as excited about this Western Conference side. It's Phoenix for sure, though, for me.
Yeah. So on the Phoenix thing, I think you can still get them at plus money to win the West. So if you want to jump on it, I think you can get on that. I'm not sure if it's changed, but that's what Tyler was saying on the bet show 2 days ago. And then one more thing,
plus 120, plus 120 on that's on FanDuel. So
I'm sure if you shop around too, you can get some good ones. You can probably even get, if you really want to, get Phoenix and whoever you think's coming out of the East, do one of those ones, whoever makes it to the finals, and hope you get even more juice on it if you'd like. Minnesota is the one that, man, I bet them to make the playoffs this year. I was pretty high on them to start the year. I mean, they went from a 23-win team to now being in the playoffs, which is really impressive. And man, I just hate that, the team that I was kind of on early, these are both teams I was on early. I'm holding this 75-1 Memphis ticket, right? And I like the Timberwolves. I wanted them to run into the Jazz or Dallas or even the Nuggets, because that's a team I was man, I would really be banking on Minnesota and be betting on them. Just feel like I got two of my kids running into each other. I don't want to pick one. So that's my one issue I have, but I am a big believer in Memphis. So I don't mind some people taking some shots on Minnesota though, at deeper odds, if you really truly think it, because I am a big believer in Ann Edwards. I am not the biggest believer in Cat though, man. Did you watch that game, Hoop? Because Cat, I get it. Yes, there were some foul issues, and I do think he'll do better in this series, but I am just so disappointed that Cat cannot just be an alpha and take over. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's the reason why I like Minnesota in this. I don't necessarily I think they have a chance to win the series. I'm going to pick them to win because I don't want to just pick all the popular or the favorites. That is the one thing that's so frustrating with this damn team. He's so soft, so soft. In a weak matchup, he'll go out there and score 40 and get you 15 rebounds, and he'll dominate a team that has no interior defense in the regular season. Push comes to shove, money's on the line. Dude just can't do it mentally. He is so soft, so weak mentally, and that's the one thing that will potentially hold this team back in the long run is him. He just doesn't have it. When guys have that winning spirit. My number one guy that I've hated on forever, Andre Drummond, he doesn't have it. He'll go put up those big stats and get it. I've went on so many rants about Drummond. He's not winning you basketball teams. He was the main guy on the Detroit Pistons for how many years, and they were a disaster. He's not going to win you basketball games. Same with Cat. Come playoff time, he's not going to get the job done, and that's what I think holds his team back for sure.
I hope I end up being wrong on that. It's one of those things where in the playoffs, stars are born, right? And guys rise up. I hope he does rise up. I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm definitely concerned it's not going to happen. I hope maybe it's just a bad narrative. Maybe he does, and we'll see. Obviously, the first game, I am going to give him a little bit of a pass because there was some bad foul calls and everything, but it was very impressive what the Timberwolves did. And the other thing that was very impressive, and I went back and watched it, they were losing by I think the Clippers had 95 points, and then in the final 8 minutes, they only scored 12 points, and that's when the Timberwolves went on that huge run and they locked them up. And The one thing I think the Timberwolves have that's going to be really interesting, and I do think Memphis has this too, is they have many ways that you can win. Being able to have a lot of different routes to be able to change and play the chess match throughout the series is important. I think the Timberwolves have that. Similar to the Hawks last year. I felt like the Hawks had that, and it was very impressive. I think the Timberwolves have that, and Memphis as well. So that's going to be a real fun series to watch. Let's kind of talk about the East here a little bit, because I want to get some takes from you here. Philadelphia, Toronto is definitely an interesting one. Like, I thought the odds would be a little further than they are. Like, Philadelphia only minus 180 kind of shocked me. Milwaukee and the Bulls, we know that's going to be just like an absolute burner, 4-0 or 4-1. That's the way to probably bet that series. You get some really good plus money on those. And then Boston and Brooklyn, there are some talks that Robert Williams could be back in time, not for maybe the start, but in the middle of the series. I do worry that some of the chemistry might be ruined from that, but Boston was clicking so well. I'm sure he can just seamlessly get back in there and be fine. So that'll be an interesting series to watch. And then I'm kind of intrigued by the Miami and hopefully the Hawks series. Curious to get some of your takes here on how these teams all match up.
Yeah, I think the annoying part was that the Bulls matched up with the Bucks. I wanted to bet against the Bulls. I talked about on the show with Spread and Tyler, and like, man, as soon as that number comes out, whoever the Bulls are facing, I don't care who it is, I'm firing. Well, they get the matchup with the Bucks, and the number's massive. I mean, I think it opened up at like minus 650, and then now it's all the way up to like minus 1200 in some spots. Makes it unbettable. I mean, I guess if you have like just a shit ton of money sitting around on the sports book and you want a free like whatever 10% or 8%, yeah, put on the Bucks because they're going to win. There's no way they lose. I think if Giannis goes out, if he gets hurt the first second of the series, I think the Bucks still win. Like, the Bulls are just, I think, so overrated. So that's unfortunate. Can't really bet it. I think the most intriguing series for me personally is that Nets and Celtics one. And I've already bet the Nets here at plus money. And, I don't know if it's the right move, wrong move, but I know for sure I'm getting the two best players on that basketball court all series at plus money. I'll take it. I'll see what happens. I'm not a believer in the Celtics. So that is definitely my favorite play overall in this round. The 76ers Raptors series, I think it's going to be a good series. I think it can go deep. I don't think you need to make a play here. If I did make a play, I'd take the plus money again. I'd take the Raptors plus 150. Again, I talked about this yesterday. That the Raptors' best guys are going to be on that court almost every single minute of the series. You're getting those guys out there for 40 plus minutes. They might get like a 2-minute breather, and then they're right back out there. I'll take my chances, I think, in that one. I wish the number was wider. I wish it was Raptors like plus 200, but it's probably my second favorite bet out of all the series would be the Raptors plus the 150 or 160, whatever it is.
What's the plus money on the Nets?
They're plus 120 on FanDuel. And like I said, I'll just take my chances there.
I don't hate the idea of like, if you just bet like the Nets and the Raptors, like I think like at least one of them wins. Like,
you have a sweat. You'll have a sweat, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, either way, but you could even get both, right? Like, you could clean both up, and I don't really see a route where both win. I mean, maybe they do.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's a chance, but I feel good about that bet. Like, it does feel like a good like plus EV bet just to take both of them, not together in a parlay, but just separate, and feel like you can get out with at least one win in the plus money and maybe even, secure both. So that'd be nice. This is my crazy take. My crazy one is the Hawks beat Miami. I'm not a big Miami believer. I think you bet them at the start of the year, right? You have money on them to win the championship from earlier on.
Yes.
Now I want to get your take on the Heat right now. Do you think, after watching throughout the whole year, do you think they're fraudulent? They're not as good as you thought they were, or are you still a believer? Obviously, you're rooting it on. It's your ticket, right? You want to.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to get your take on the Heat after seeing it throughout the whole year.
It's just tough, man, because this Eastern Conference is so strong. I mean, there's like 5 teams that if you tell me, okay, this team comes out of the East, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think so many of these teams are live. It's going to be a grind. And I think that's why maybe, betting on Phoenix as much as possible, maybe to win the West, to win the NBA, they're going to have the easiest road. If they can get the job done, they're going to have the easiest path. I just think these Eastern Conference teams are going to beat up on each other. I got a good number on the Heat early on. So yeah, maybe I can hedge and take the Hawks or take another team to come out of the East. But there's like, to me, 5 teams that if you told me, all right, this team came out of the East,
I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's going to be a battle. It is going to be an absolute battle. If I had to put money on one of these teams, I don't know who it would be. I have no idea who it would be at this point. Maybe probably the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks, I'm sure they're the favorites, but I mean, they get an easy first round against the Bulls, but it's going to be a battle.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm totally with you. I think the Suns is the best way to go. If you had to pick like one bet, you wanted like the longest sweat. That's probably the way that I would go with it. And I agree with you on like the whole like the Heat thing. Like it's such a tough path, and I think it's for all of them. Like it's just going to be a gauntlet to fight through. And you talk about hedging your bets, right? If you've made some future bets like you do with Miami, well, now you have a chance to hedge it if you have like a really good line. Like the Grizzlies one I have at 75 to 1. Well, if the Grizzlies went into the Suns, I feel like I can make a pretty nice hedge. And then if they get to the finals there, like, and if they do beat the Suns, I do feel confident they are like a way more for real team. And they've just shown so much where I'm okay to kind of ride it out. So those are small things you can do while betting to kind of like, if you don't want to ride with your ticket as much, or if you have some worries, you can hedge it in that situation. Or if like a big injury happens and you have like a really deep number from one of your guys, well, now you can just jump on that other side. And yeah, maybe you're not getting as great of a line then at that point, but there are ways to hedge throughout series if you pay close enough attention. So definitely a good approach to take. Hoop, before we get on out of here, who's like your final picks to get there? I think you kind of gave it away, but who are the teams that you think make it to the finals? And who is your winner to take it home?
Oh, it's definitely going to be the Suns in the West. I mean, these Western teams, I just think I don't even know who I'd pick as number 2. I just think they're all so fraudulent. Like it just has to be the Suns. And then out of the East, give me the Nets. I think they could potentially make a run, and then the Suns winning it all. I just think this is the year for the Suns, the year for Chris Paul. I think they have an easy path to get there, where the East is going to beat up on each other all the way through. Give me the Suns.
All right. Well, those are the picks from Hoop. I'm not going to give them yet. I'll give them tomorrow when we talk with Big T, Western Conference preview. We did one with JSU talking the Eastern Conference. So if you want to find that, it's over here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Like the video. You guys appreciate it. And also subscribe to the channel so you get notified when we go live. But we'll be going live with the morning show, as always, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. So be sure to check that out. Like I said, it's going to be a great time. And we have all the content over here at Run Pure Sports. Hoop, let's mention one last thing. One of your favorite things to do. We got the USFL coming up, right? And we're going to have some great content for that, but we're not charging you extra over here at Run Pure, right? As we like to say, all the sports for one price. So talk about that, because I'll definitely be in those USFL streets.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put out a tweet the other day, and like, what's going to come if you subscribe to different websites. They're going to hit you up and say you probably owe what's it going to be? Probably $250. Probably going to be the going rate, maybe $300 for USFL content. And I know it's a talking point for me, but at Run Pure, we already have people covering it. We have a team that's going to be covering USFL. I'm sure Mangone will be in there grinding it out in the Discord, talking to people USFL. And guess what? We're going to do all that, and we're not going to charge you anymore like these other sites. Anything that pops up on DraftKings, we cover. The F1 that popped up, we have someone covering it. I mean, it's just the right thing to do. And, it's a way that, we appreciate everyone that's a member on our website. And that's kind of our way of giving back. We just add these sports, never raise prices, and keep marching on and really keep getting to the top of the leaderboards in all these different sports. So it's one of the main reasons to become a member at Run Pure. You get absolutely everything on the website, one price.
Here's my question. I'll be grinding it out, Hoop. I'm not going home for Easter, so I'll be sitting on the couch watching NBA playoffs and grinding out some USFL while others are too focused on whatever family things they're doing. So I'll be hitting the church in the morning, right? At least doing that, doing my Sunday activity. But after that, I'm not doing some BS meal with the family. I'm going to be here grinding all the sports and in the Discord chat with the people. Is Hoop playing USFL? That's my question. I want Hoop to be in at least the first week and give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the prize pools might end up drawing me in. It'd probably be more of like just a full MME type thing for me. I'm not going to, make one or two teams. I'm going to, check out the playbook for USFL, check out the core plays, and probably just make 150 teams, run it, and see what happens. I mean, what's the broadcasting schedule? Is this on just regular TV or?
No, you're gonna get it on like mainstream. You can find it. You won't have to search too far around. And the key with it too, as well. I will say this: I want to try and get some USFL stuff on these maybe morning shows going forward. We'll see. But here's the schedule, Hoop, and I think this is kind of awesome. Saturday 5:30 p.m. There's one game, and then Sunday at 10 there's a game. Michigan's playing, so and Patterson, former Michigan quarterback, is on Michigan as well. So you get a Sunday 10 a.m., a Sunday 2 p.m., and a Sunday 6 p.m. where you can kind of like go back in and like rearrange your lineups if you're behind and stuff, or if you want to make adjustments. So I think it's a cool approach too, as well, that, you know, I like obviously messing with. So I want Hoop to be in it. I mean, you took a shot with the college football, and even though you had that one brutal injury,
ran so bad, just incredibly
still made money though, right? So it wasn't something you thought you'd do, and you kind of checked out the content and did decent. So I think you should at least get in for week 1 and then kind of go from there. I think it'd be a good idea.
I worked for college basketball too. I hadn't played college basketball all season long. I pull up the playbook, put in some teams, and won some money. So it's all you need, man. The playbooks are just so on point, especially in these like niche sports. I mean, so many nice little gems in there.
Yep. So I'm hoping to see Hoop in there. I don't know my approach yet. I'm still deciding if I'm going to MME more, or if I'm going to more so do like a one lineup single entry kind of thing. Or maybe I'll do both. There's definitely a chance I do both of them. So I can't wait for that this weekend. Should be a good time. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with Big T breaking down the Western Conference. That is going to wrap it up for us, though, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, Mangone, and Hoop, we will see you guys later.